The Supreme Court rules on a case that essentially overturns Roe versus Wade.
Joining us now is attorney Jan Ronis for a closer look at today's announcement. Good morning to you, Jan. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Good morning.
And I have to ask, what was your initial reaction to hearing about the ruling this morning?
Well, fortunately, because of the draft, the leaked memo, we all kind of knew what to expect. So everybody kind of was able to brace themselves. I wasn't surprised. At a personal level, I was, well, in addition to not being surprised, I was disappointed because that Roe versus Wade is part of the, the constitutional, not the constitution, but the cultural fabric of this nation. Everybody's come to depend upon it. And this is a seismic shift in the way people will approach the subject. It'll be illegal in most states, and people will be flocking to the states like California, for example, that may embrace it. And it's mind-boggling to suggest how many changes there may be with respect to gay marriage, contraceptives, things of that nature. So it's going to be far-reaching, impactful, and it's not over with.
Yeah, and you mentioned illegal in most states. I wanted to talk to you about these. We spoke earlier with Wendy Patrick, and she mentioned these trigger laws. And one study and research showed that I think 26 states will most likely ban abortions after this decision. That's more than half our states, obviously. Explain what these trigger laws are. They were just sitting there waiting for this decision, and then they go into effect right away?
Right. Since the inception of Roe v. Wade, many of the states, well, obviously, given that the Supreme Court had authorized it, had laws in effect that would go into effect 30 days after, if for some reason Roe versus Wade was overturned, as it has been now. So within approximately 30 days in those states that you mentioned, it will now be illegal for abortions in those states. And so people could be prosecuted, doctors could be prosecuted, people may be prosecuted going to other states, to travel for abortion. So it's going to have a significant effect on over half of the states in this country, and perhaps even more.
For women who are waking up this morning, they're hearing about this news. Like you mentioned, nothing really changes here in California. As you know, I know that California leaders, they've been trying to, make California a sanctuary state. If anything, there are efforts, right, to change the verbiage perhaps for the state's constitution as well regarding abortion.
Yeah, well, no state can have less constitutional protections than the federal constitution authorizes, but states can have greater constitutional protections. So California can certainly make and has make abortion constitutionally legal in the state, and they can do it statutorily. So states can have higher rights, but they can't have lesser rights. And now the law of the land is, according to the Supreme Court, that it's okay for states to restrict abortion. Now, other states can choose to do differently, and that's where the political battle will begin, state to state, and this is going to resonate politically in this nation for probably decades, because Roe versus Wade certainly has.
Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker, said earlier this morning, just about 30 minutes ago, that this is criminalizing reproductive freedom, and it's a dangerous decision. Strong words from the House Speaker. She seemed to believe that this is not going to just stop at the fact that the states can make up their own minds. She seems to believe that this might be going towards a nationwide banning of abortion. Is that how you see it? Is this it? Or do they want to go further with this?
Listen, you could conceivably, if you could get the political will to amend the U.S. Constitution to prohibit abortions in the states that presently allow it, I suspect that could happen. I don't see that happening. It's a very volatile issue, divisive, that's torn this nation apart for decades. And so I don't see it going to that point. But the battle will be in the states in which they're going to restrict abortions, and the embracing of people that may want to come to California and other states are going to allow it may create a massive influx of people for that purpose, which could be criminalized in the states in which they come. So it's kind of mind-boggling to think of the manifestations of this going forward.
And Jan, as we're breaking this down, and just again, as people are waking up, they're hearing about this breaking news. Abortion is not outlawed outright, correct? It goes back to the state. So I'm just kind of bringing it back as you break it down.
Right. Basically, Roe v. Wade said that there was a constitutional right of privacy, which included the right of a woman's make the decision over their own body, which included, among other things, abortion. And so that was widely criticized, perhaps having been founded on somewhat shaky constitutional ground, but nevertheless, that was law of the land. And so it doesn't make abortion illegal. It just authorizes states to prohibit if they want to, and the states can make it illegal. But presently, the decision doesn't make it legal. It just authorizes the states to make it so if they want to. Basically, there's no constitutional right to abortion under this decision.
I wanted to go back to what you said earlier, Jan, when you said perhaps people could be prosecuted for coming to California, because it seems to me, and you mentioned sanctuary state for California, that our state will get a lot of people coming here to have that procedure. As many as 8,000 to 16,000 more will travel to California to get this procedure done. That's one of the studies that was done. But you said potentially people who do that could be prosecuted, but that's not this case yet. But that potentially is something that
there are laws. It's against the law to cross state lines to do a lot of things. For example, it's against it's against the law to cross state lines to start a riot. Right. And so I suspect the states can implement laws to make it against the laws to cross a state for to have an abortion performed. I mean, these are some of the mind-boggling things that we have to take our way through. States may be allowed to ban contraception, or they may be allowed to ban same-sex marriage on the basis of this this new decision that came out today.
The impact of, it's just, like you use the term mind-boggling because, since 1973, this has been what we just knew, and a lot of people pretty much felt that would never be overturned. I think a lot of lawyers, a lot of people thought we would never see this day. How impactful is today's decision? Is there any way you can kind of summarize for people who are like, wait, what is happening today?
Well, just like the Miranda ruling,
yes,
like the right to abortion, these are part of the cultural fabric of this nation, whether they're constitutional or not. People just came to accept it as one of their constitutional rights that were enshrined and embraced by the Constitution. That was always on shaky grounds, and that's not true. And so presently, the consequences are catastrophic at a certain level for those people who want to seek the right to an abortion. And so it's monumental. It has colossal impact, and it's going to be with us for a long time at both the political and legal level, in my opinion.
In all the years we've been speaking with you, Jan, you've thrown out some words like monumental, I don't remember you using terms like that this frequently ever. So that kind of tells you just how big this is.
Well, I don't know. My English, I don't know whether they're adverbs or adjectives, but that's my description.
Yes, sir. Jan Ronas, as always, we thank you for the expertise on this.
Pleasure. Thanks so much.
All right.